In the vast, silent expanse of Kepler 742, a planet untouched by known civilizations, the sky tore open with a violent burst of energy. J. Kim's survival pod plummeted through layers of violet-tinted atmosphere, its heat shields burning bright against the alien landscape. The craft tumbled and spun, a metallic meteor descending with brutal precision toward the crystalline terrain below. With a thunderous crash, the pod impacted the ground, sending razor-sharp rock fragments exploding in all directions. For moments nothing moved. Then a soft mechanical hiss broke the silence as the pod's external systems activated. The advanced exosuit within began its emergency protocols, scanning the surrounding environment with precision that defied the chaos of the crash. J. Kim slowly emerged, his suit's integrated systems working overtime. The landscape was unlike anything from Earth. Massive crystal formations jutted from the ground like frozen lightning, their surfaces refracting light in impossible colors. Lavender vegetation swayed in a breeze that carried strange, metallic undertones. Each movement of the alien plants seemed calculated, almost intelligent. In the distance, hidden partially behind a cluster of translucent rock formations, small figures watched. They were not what any human exploration team would have expected. Petite beings with skin that seemed to shimmer between solid and liquid, their large eyes reflecting an intelligence that was both primitive and deeply complex. The alien females moved with a strange grace, part caution and part curiosity. Their bodies were slight, barely reaching Jay's waist, but there was a strength in their posture that suggested they were far from defenseless. Iridescent skin changed colors subtly, shifting from deep blue to soft green, a camouflage mechanism that spoke of evolutionary brilliance. Jay's suit ran diagnostics. Oxygen levels acceptable. Gravity, 1.2 times Earth standard. Temperature, moderate, but with rapid fluctuations. The suit's computer mapped the immediate terrain, highlighting potential resources and potential threats. One of the alien females, apparently their leader, took a step forward. Her movements were calculated, each step measured. She carried what appeared to be a primitive weapon, a staff made from local materials, its tip sharpened to a dangerous point. But her eyes told a different story. There was no pure aggression, only a mix of fear, curiosity, and something that resembled scientific observation. The crash site continued to smolder. Small fires sparked among the crystal formations, casting eerie shadows that danced across the alien landscape. Jay remained perfectly still, understanding that any sudden movement could trigger a defensive response from the local inhabitants. Communication would be challenging. His universal translator hummed softly, attempting to analyze the subtle vibrations and potential language patterns of these beings. They communicated through a complex system of body movements, color changes, and what seemed to be low-frequency sounds just at the edge of human hearing. The survival pod behind Jay was badly damaged. Its hull was cracked, systems flickering between active and dead. He would need to salvage what he could, but first he needed to understand the inhabitants of this strange world. More of the alien females emerged from their hiding spots. They moved like a coordinated unit, each taking a strategic position. Some remained hidden, their bodies blending perfectly with the crystal landscape. Others formed a semicircle, creating a living perimeter around the crashed pod. Jay's hand remained near his emergency weapon, but he made no move to draw it. These were not aggressive creatures. They were cautious, intelligent, and clearly trying to understand this sudden intrusion into their world. The leader took another step forward. Her staff remained raised, but her posture suggested more curiosity than threat. Behind her large reflective eyes, Jay could see a complexity of emotion, fear, yes, but also a deep, burning desire to understand this metallic stranger who had fallen from the sky. As the twin suns of Kepler 742 began to set, casting the landscape in hues of deep purple and metallic silver, J. Kim realized his survival would depend on more than just his advanced technology. It would require understanding, patience, and perhaps a willingness to see this alien world through entirely new eyes. The first encounter had begun. The silence of the alien landscape became electric with tension. As J. Kim's universal translator flickered to life, Its soft, almost musical hum seemed to create ripples in the air, causing the crystal formations around them to vibrate with subtle resonance. Ari, the leader of the small alien group, took a careful step forward. Her movements were deliberate, each step calculated like a careful dance between curiosity and survival. Behind her, the other alien females huddled close, their iridescent skin changing colors, a language of its own that spoke of complex emotions, fear, excitement, uncertainty. Jay remained perfectly still. He understood that on an unknown planet, the slightest wrong movement could trigger a defensive response. His exosuit systems continued scanning, collecting data with every passing moment. The alien female's biological signatures were unlike anything in human databases. Their internal structures suggested adaptations far beyond simple survival. Ari's large, reflective eyes studied Jay with an intelligence that seemed to penetrate. Beyond physical appearance, she carried a staff made from local materials, a weapon but also potentially a symbol of leadership. Her posture suggested she was both protector and explorer of her small group. The universal translator began its work, breaking down the subtle vibrations and color changes the aliens used for communication. It was more than just language. It was a complex system of visual and vibrational communication that required sophisticated interpretation. "Water," Jay said quietly, pulling out a compact filtration device. The aliens tensed, their bodies shifting. Colors rapidly, a mix of blue and green that suggested a combination of fear and intense curiosity. He approached a nearby stream. The liquid was thick, almost mud-like, with a strange metallic sheen. To the alien females, this would have been undrinkable. But Jay's device hummed to life, its advanced filtration system working with remarkable efficiency. Droplets of crystal-clear water began to fill a small container. The transformation was instantaneous and magical. The alien females watched with wide eyes, their bodies now shifting to a brilliant silver color, a reaction that seemed to indicate pure amazement. Ari took a step closer. Her staff remained raised, but her posture had changed. No longer purely defensive, she now showed something closer to scientific curiosity. The other females whispered among themselves, their color changes creating a complex visual language that the translator struggled to fully interpret. The water demonstration was more than just a practical solution. It was a form of communication, a way of showing capability without threat. Jay understood that on this strange planet, survival would depend on building trust, on showing value without overwhelming the local inhabitants. One of the younger aliens, barely reaching Jay's waist, took a tentative step forward. Her movements were quick, almost bird-like. She reached out, her translucent fingers nearly touching the filtered water. The color of her skin shifted rapidly, a mix of excitement and caution. Ari made a subtle motion with her staff. The young alien stopped, but her eyes remained fixed on the water. Jay slowly extended the container, a universal gesture of offer and peace. The alien landscape around them continued to breathe. Crystal formations caught the light of the setting suns, creating rainbows that danced across the terrain. In the distance, strange vegetation swayed, alive, watching, part of a complex ecosystem that had existed long before this moment of first contact. Communication was happening on multiple levels. The universal translator captured sound. The exosuit recorded biological responses. But the most profound communication was happening in the space between, in gestures, in careful movements, in the universal language of curiosity and survival. Ari's group continued to whisper. Their color changes told a story of internal debate, fear battling with an overwhelming desire to understand this strange metallic being who could transform undrinkable liquid into life-giving water. First contact had begun. Not with words, but with a simple act of survival. Not with weapons, but with a demonstration of technological capability. On Kepler 742, a new chapter of understanding was about to be written. The alien sun rose slowly over the crystal landscape, casting long shadows across the makeshift camp where Jay and the alien females worked. Days had transformed their initial fear into a strange partnership of survival and learning. Ari watched intently, as Jay's hands moved with surgical precision. Simple rocks became tools, branches transformed into sophisticated hunting implements. What seemed like magic to her people was simply basic human engineering and survival knowledge. The process began with stone selection. Jay demonstrated how to find rocks with the right mineral composition, those with clean, sharp edges that could be shaped into cutting tools. His fingers moved across different stones, testing their strength, showing how subtle pressure could create perfect cutting edges. One younger alien, who Jay had come to understand was named Kira, watched with particular intensity. Her iridescent skin shifted between colors, deep blue of concentration, occasional flashes of bright green indicating excitement. She wasn't just watching, she was absorbing every single movement. Jay created a basic cutting tool first. He selected a hard volcanic rock, carefully struck it against another stone, creating a sharp-edged implement. The alien females gasped collectively. To them, this seemed like an impossible transformation, a rock becoming a weapon, a tool, something more than its original form. Shelter construction came next. The planet's environment was challenging, rapid temperature changes, unexpected, wind patterns, potential predator threats. Jay showed them how to select location, how to understand terrain, how to use local materials effectively. He demonstrated knot-tying techniques using local plant fibers. His fingers moved quickly, creating connections that were both strong and flexible. The aliens watched, their large eyes reflecting a mix of confusion and growing understanding. Kira was the first to attempt replication. Her smaller fingers struggled initially, but her determination was remarkable. Where human hands might fumble, her alien physiology offered unique advantages, greater flexibility, enhanced sensory perception that allowed for more precise movements. Hunting techniques followed. Jay understood that survival wasn't just about creating tools, but understanding how to use them effectively. He showed tracking methods, how to read environmental signs, how to move quietly through terrain. The alien female's natural intelligence became increasingly apparent. What Jay demonstrated as learned skills, they processed as potential evolutionary adaptations. Their learning was not just mimicry, but a deep, intuitive understanding of survival principles. By the fifth day, the camp had transformed. Simple shelters now stood where before there was only open terrain. Hunting implements hung carefully prepared. A system of communication had developed, part human technology, part alien intuition. Ari, who had initially approached Jay with caution, now moved with a newfound confidence. Her staff had been replaced with a more sophisticated hunting implement, crafted using techniques Jay had shared. Her body language suggested not just learned skill, but a growing sense of empowerment. The alien ecosystem seemed to watch. Crystal formations caught the sunlight, reflecting the activities below. Strange vegetation swayed, as if acknowledging this unexpected evolution happening within their domain. For Jay, this was more than just survival training. It was a delicate dance of cultural exchange, of sharing knowledge without overwhelming, of respecting the natural progression of a developing civilization. As evening approached, the group gathered around a carefully constructed fire. The flames danced, casting shadows that told stories of transformation. Kira sat closest to Jay, her skin now a stable, calm blue. A color he had come to understand represented contentment and learning. The alien females were no longer just survivors. They were becoming something more, a society on the cusp of technological understanding, guided by an unexpected teacher who had fallen from the sky. Survival was no longer just about existing. It was about growing, learning, becoming something greater than what they were before. The first attack came without warning. A thunderous screech split the alien sky, followed by massive shadows that blocked the twin suns of Kepler 742. Predatory creatures descended, massive reptilian beings with multiple limbs and razor-sharp appendages that could slice through rock like paper. Jay's military training kicked in instantly. Where others might freeze, he moved with calculated precision. His voice remained calm, his movements deliberate. "Stay together," he commanded. Though the aliens didn't fully understand his language, his body language spoke volumes. Ari and her group had learned enough to trust him. Their iridescent skin shifted to deep protective colors, deep blues and grays that seemed to blend with the surrounding crystal landscape. Kira, the youngest, clutched the hunting tools they had crafted together, her small frame trembling but determined. The predators were unlike anything Jay had encountered. Six-legged creatures with exoskeletons that seemed to absorb and reflect. Light, they moved with terrifying speed. Their primary attack method involved massive cutting limbs that could shred through most organic materials in seconds. Jay's first action was terrain analysis. The crystal formations around their settlement weren't just geological features. They were potential defensive positions. He quickly guided the alien females to create strategic positions, using natural rock formations as barriers. Use what? He demonstrated, showing how to create noise traps using local materials. Hanging crystal fragments became warning systems. Thin branches were transformed into trip lines. The aliens watched, their large eyes reflecting a mix of fear and growing understanding. Kira proved to be the most innovative. She noticed how certain crystal formations could be positioned to create sound reflections, essentially creating audio confusion for the approaching predators. Jay recognized her natural intelligence immediately, guiding her intuition with precise military strategy. The first wave of attack came quickly. Massive predatory creatures charged, their multiple limbs cutting through the air with devastating potential. But Jay's preparation made a difference. The first creatures found themselves trapped in carefully constructed pit traps, their massive bodies becoming entangled in precisely positioned barriers. Ari's role became crucial. Her leadership training merged with Jay's tactical guidance. She coordinated the group's movements, using the communication techniques they had developed, a mix of color changes, subtle body movements, and the few verbal commands they now shared. V2. Battle wasn't just about survival. It was a moment of transformation. The alien females were no longer just potential victims. They became defenders, using the tools and strategies Jay had taught them. Their primitive society was learning advanced defensive techniques in real time. One particularly large predator broke through the initial defenses. Its massive form towered over the settlement, cutting limbs ready to destroy everything. Jay stepped forward, his exosuit systems engaging. But it was Kira who made the critical move, using a hunting tool to create a sound distraction that momentarily confused the creature. The battle lasted hours. When silence finally returned, the settlement remained intact. Predatory creatures lay trapped or defeated, testament to their new defensive capabilities. The crystal landscape showed signs of conflict, broken formations, scattered debris, but the core settlement remained untouched. Ari approached Jay, her body language showing a complex mix of emotions: respect, gratitude, a newfound understanding of their unexpected protector. Her staff, now modified with techniques Jay had shown her, represented more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of their growing partnership. Kira sat nearby, her small form covered in dust, but her eyes bright with a newfound confidence. She had contributed. She had survived. The mysterious metal being who had fallen from the sky was no longer just a stranger. He was their protector, their teacher. As the alien suns set, casting long shadows across the crystal landscape, the settlement remained silent. They had survived. They had learned. And everything had changed. The spacecraft's damaged hull gleamed under the alien suns, a testament to survival and resilience. Jay moved carefully, his every action deliberate and measured. Around him, Ari and her group watched with a mixture of sadness and anticipation. Preparation for departure was more than just mechanical repair. It was a careful process of legacy creation. Jay understood that his time on this planet was about more than personal survival. It was about giving these alien females a chance at future advancement. Blueprints were his most precious gift. Not complex technological documents that would overwhelm, but carefully curated knowledge, basic water filtration techniques, simple energy collection methods, fundamental tool-making principles that could spark generations of technological growth. Kira approached closest, her iridescent skin shifting between colors that suggested deep emotion, blues of sadness, greens of hope, silver hints of excitement. She watched Jay's hands move across various technological components, memorizing every detail. Ari stood slightly behind, her leadership posture unchanged, but her body language revealing a complex, emotional landscape. She understood this was more than a goodbye. This was a moment of transformation for her entire species. The surviving alien females gathered in a careful semicircle. Their collective body language told a story of loss, of potential, of incredible change. The metallic stranger who had fallen from the sky was preparing to leave, but he was leaving something far more important than himself. Jay created special storage containers for his blueprints, made from local materials, designed to withstand the planet's challenging environmental conditions. Each container was marked with simple illustrations, universal symbols that could be understood across potential technological stages, water collection techniques, basic electrical generation principles, defensive strategy outlines, survival guides that spoke not just of technology, but of adaptive thinking. These were gifts that could potentially accelerate their civilization's development by hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. Kira's curiosity remained uncontrolled. She touched one of the containers, her fingers tracing the simple illustrations. Her large eyes reflected an intelligence that went beyond her current technological understanding. She was seeing potential futures. The spacecraft hummed with low-level energy. Repair systems worked slowly but consistently, transforming damaged components into functional parts. It was a living example of the technological principles Jay was leaving behind. Arai approached, carrying a gift of her own. A staff created using techniques Jay had taught them, decorated with local crystals. It was a symbol of their time together, a representation of cultural exchange that went beyond simple survival. Communication remained challenging but meaningful. Gestures, color changes, the universal language of mutual respect. Jay's universal translator worked overtime, capturing subtle nuances of their emotional goodbye. As final preparations completed, the alien females gathered closer. Their collective body language suggested both sadness and hope. The metallic being who had fallen from their sky was leaving, but he was leaving something far more precious than himself: potential. Kira made a final gesture, a color change, and subtle body movement that the translator interpreted as a complex mixture of gratitude and hope. She understood in her own way that this moment was about more than one individual's departure. The spacecraft systems began final activation sequences. External components realigned, energy systems prepared for potential interstellar travel. Jay took a final look at the crystal landscape that had been his home for weeks. Ari stepped forward, her staff raised in what seemed like both a salute and a blessing. The other alien females followed, creating a living pathway of respect and potential. Their iridescent skin shifted in complex patterns, a farewell written in colors and movements. As the spacecraft's engines prepared for launch, the crystal landscape seemed to watch. Strange vegetation swayed, crystal formations caught the light, an entire ecosystem bearing witness to this moment of incredible transformation. Jay was leaving, but his legacy would remain: potential, hope, the possibility of future advancement. On Kepler 742, everything had changed. The metallic visitor prepared to return to the stars, leaving behind a world forever transformed.